We have quite a show for y'all today. There's a lot of breaking news right now that's pretty crazy to see. So we're going to be focusing on 4 stories that just came out today and late last night to get out to you guys. And the first one we're going to start off with is the inflation numbers. So we just got the new inflation numbers. As many of you may have seen by now, maybe not. It just came out about 30 minutes to an hour ago. The Dow futures have dropped more than 500 points after a hotter than expected inflation report was released. So let's go ahead and look at these numbers really quickly. CPI came in at 8.2% year over year, was estimated to be 8.1% year over year. And right here, U.S. CPI in September came in at 0.4% month over month. The estimated was 0.2%. So we are hitting over our numbers still, which is it's probably not that good of a thing considering the Fed is continually raising its rates to try to curb inflation. We're still seeing inflation on the rise. So we can expect to see some more rising rates from the Fed. I don't even know what to say. So let's go ahead and read this article, see what CNBC says about this. Dow futures dropped more than 500 points after a higher than expected inflation report. Stock futures fell Thursday morning, erasing earlier gains after a key consumer inflation report came in hotter than expected, signaling that the Federal Reserve will likely continue with aggressive rate hikes. There you go. Future for the Dow Jones Industrial average fell 530 points, or 1.8%. S&P 500 and NASDAQ 100 futures slumped 2.18% and 2.97% respectively. The yield on the 10-year U.S. Treasury spiked above 4% as bonds sold off. Yields are inverse to price. The reversal in early gains came after the September consumer inflation report came in higher than economists expected. The consumer price index increased 0.4% for the month, more than the 0.2% that we just read. 0.2, I think that's an incorrection right there, on the Dow estimate from Dow Jones. On an annual basis, inflation is up 8.2%. The report signals that inflation is a persistent problem even amid large interest rate hikes from the central bank. Going forward, the Fed will likely have to keep delivering increases and keep rates high until there are signs that inflation is cooling off. And that's what I was saying. So I think the rates are about, going rates right now are about 6% for mortgages and just interest rates in general. I think we're about 6.5%. And I saw that the Fed was going to, they want to, in the next 2 meetings they have, the board meetings, which they decide, are we going to raise rates, are we going to drop rates, or keep them the same? They said that they want to raise rates an additional 125 basis points. So that converts to about 1.25%-ish, that we're going to continue to see a rise in rates. And this is a big deal because, let me explain it like this. So we have the housing market right now. As we all have seen in the past year or two, the housing market has hit an absolute all-time high, ridiculous peak of prices, right? I mean, everything is expensive right now. It's unaffordable to buy a house. In fact, let me go ahead and look up Housing Affordability Index just to show you guys what I was looking at not too long ago. It's at an all-time high right now. Let's see. So here's the index. Here's housing affordability. It's continually declining. Where is the median sales price of houses? Here we go. Look at this. So only back in 2016, the median selling price of a house, $299,000. See this large spike here? From 2020, we went to 322, all the way up to 440 in Q2 of 2022. So we are up about 25% in 2 years on the sale price in houses. This is the largest spike I think has ever been recorded in U.S. history. So the housing market is at an all-time high. This is important to note if you are a home builder or if you're a homeowner. If you got a loan in the past year or two, likelihood is you probably have to hold on to that loan at least throughout this recession, because the housing market is gonna decline. To the degree of how much it will decline, there is a debate on that. It's not 100%, it's gonna crash, but there definitely seems to be a correction coming with the rise in interest rates. So let's go ahead and keep reading this article, see what they have to say. A lot of the times you can try to find a silver lining in some of the numbers. I can't. I think that's why you're seeing this truly atrocious reaction right now, said Steve Sosnick, chief strategist at Interactive Brokers. Stock futures had surged as the British pound gained more than 1% versus the US dollar on a report that the government there may be rethinking a tax cut plan that has exacerbated a decline in the currency to the lowest in decades at the end of September, putting global markets on edge. Thursday's CPI report comes a day after the government said the producer price index, another inflation gauge, rose more than expected. Investors also digested minutes from the September Federal Reserve meeting released Wednesday. The minutes showed the central bank expected to keep hiking interest rates until it sees receding inflation. But one comment made some think the Fed might instead slow the rate hikes, if not roll them back, if financial markets tumult continued. So this article right here, I'm not exactly sure if this is the one I saw, but as I was telling you guys, the rates are continued to expect a rise. Let's see, 0.75% rate hike. So let's see, long-term inflation outlook. They said inflation was being driven by supply chain problems that were limited to goods, also a shortage of labor. Officials said they don't expect rates to stay high until inflation comes all the way down to 2%. Participants judged that inflation pressures would gradually recede in coming years. So, yeah, the meeting concluded with a 0.75% percentage point hike. That's 75 basis points. So, I mean, you kind of have to have a long-term outlook here. So, what is the goal with the Fed? The Fed has to continue to raise interest rates, to raise them. Excuse me. How much it's going to be, I don't know, because we just raised rates again. So you kind of have to keep an eye on this story. I wouldn't overreact too much. You know, inflation is up. It's not like it's up a huge amount. You know, it's 0.1% over the estimated 8.2 or 8.1%. It's 8.2%. So I wouldn't really put too much weight into this, but it's definitely a red flag. The fact that we are raising interest rates the quickest rate that we have. And before I, go off of this topic, let's go ahead and check this reserve raise rate hike chart. Because I think we have raised rates this year the quickest that we ever have. See this steep incline here. So have we raised rates that quickly? Maybe back in the 90s once. Okay, so maybe we have raised rates quickly a couple times in the past, but certainly in the past 20 years or so, this is definitely the quickest rate at which we've risen rates, the Fed at least. So keep an eye on it. But that's it for that story. So the second story we have going on today is a crazy one, an absolutely crazy story. This is some next level creepy almost stuff going on. So if you guys didn't see Tucker Carlson had a show the other day with Kanye West. He interviewed Kanye West. Kanye West had been going through this divorce situation with Kardashians. He's, his kids' situation going on. His company Yeezy having some issues with Gap. So he's had some turmoil. Tucker had him on to talk about it, and he actually called out some very powerful people and institutions. So that's why I think this happened. But if you guys have not seen, JP Morgan told Kanye they're going to cancel his bank account. Like, what? There's some crazy stuff out here, man. Let's go ahead and read this. This is the note from JP Morgan to Kanye West. They said, "Dear Ye, we are sending this letter to confirm our recent discussion with blank that JP Morgan Chase Bank has decided to end its banking relationship with Yeezy LLC and its affiliated entities. To provide the company with sufficient time to transition to another financial institution, we will continue to maintain the accounts, including all related products and services, until November 21st, 2022. To avoid any transaction delays, we suggest that you stop processing company transactions or using any products associated with the bank accounts 5 business days before the scheduled closure date. After that, the bank will close any open accounts, and after deduction of any service charges and pending transactions, remit all remaining funds in the form of a check delivered to the company at the address of record. We ask that you act promptly to transfer your business to another bank before November 21st, 2022. Okay, so first of all, I don't want to jump to conclusions here. I don't want to say that this is strictly a political move or personal move, because I think that is what we're seeing with a lot of the reaction. See people saying, all for being pro-life, this country's a joke. Canceled means we're subject to, the hand of the free market. People are thinking this is a political move, but is it really? I don't know. I don't know if it's political, because Yeezy has had some, to say the very least, they've had some fluctuations recently with their business. Like I was telling you guys, they had a massive deal with Gap, the clothing company Gap, and Kanye recently canceled that contract. He backed out of the deal, and I actually like Kanye a lot, but it's definitely true that he's had some volatility at times with the way he does business. So I don't want to strictly say this is a political move here, but I do want to say this, because I think I have to say this if we're going to talk about this story. Why is a bank canceling somebody? Why are they canceling their accounts? Why? I think if we have the why, we can properly discuss this. But if it is a political matter, this is a huge deal, because if a bank can shut down your bank account, if they're willing to, just based on some purely, comments you made or anything like that, and this kind of ties into the whole PayPal story I covered 2 days ago. The idea that PayPal was going to shut down, or not shut down, but fine users up to $2,500 for misinformation. That's kind of the same line of thinking here. If a bank decides to close your account based on misinformation or some sort of bias against you or something you said against them, that's definitely a dangerous precedent. And we'll wait and see. Like I said, I don't want to make a statement too soon on what this could be, but if this is a political matter, we need to keep our eye on this, because this could really be something. I mean, developing in the future, this really could be something here. And I think there's an article here. This is from Trending 9/11. They have a pretty cool Twitter account. This is where I saw the news. Would highly recommend you guys check out their Twitter account. There's a lot of good news going on here. But they did a little analysis here, so let's take a look at what they were saying about this news of Kanye. Breaking news, hordes of social media users threatening to leave JP Morgan Chase following the news of Kanye West's account closures. So here's the thing, they canceled him. News broke late Wednesday that JP Morgan was severing ties with, I think this is a typo here, Elon Musk. I think it's Kanye West. Let's see. Somebody says, JP Morgan Chase, I just gave you guys a 10 out of 10 today in a survey. Unfortunately, I'll leave Chase if this is due to Kanye's choice to speak on political matters. Banking and politics should remain separate. So there you go. I mean, that's what I'm saying. And I would agree with that. I think most people would agree with that, right? You have a right to have an opinion in this country. That's called freedom of speech. Your speech should not earn you a disqualification or shutting down of your accounts from a bank. Just keeping it a buck. So I agree with that. Mark Lobliner, IFBB Pro, bodybuilder, says, hello, Chase. I just sent this email to our representative as we are a private client. Please explain why you're severing ties with Kanye West. I've attached a screenshot of my email. Looking forward to your reply, he said. Let's see what he said. Hello, sir. I read that your bank is severing ties with Kanye West for things he said. This is anti-American. If you could not get confirmation that this was an error, that his accounts are not being canceled for the above stated reason, we will be transferring all our funds to a bank that values free speech. Please let us know as soon as possible. So there you go. I mean, that's a solution. Excuse me. This is the solution to companies acting like this. If we find out this is a political matter, this is what we need to do. We need to take our business elsewhere. Now, I personally like JP Morgan. I think it's a great business. It's a great bank. I've had very good experiences with it. But, people think that Kanye West is this celebrity and it's never going to happen to them. But the fact is, when they start doing it to people like Kanye West, they can do it to you. You better believe. And it's almost like a way to justify doing it against people like you and me when they do it to Kanye West. That is the problem here. We see this again. There's another story we're going to go into about Alex Jones getting a defamation lawsuit against him, but it's kind of the same thing where, we saw back in about 2016 when Twitter took Alex Jones off, I think, or maybe it was 2018 when they banned Jones. But, back then Twitter wasn't really banning anybody. They weren't really censoring much in those days. And people thought, oh, even some conservatives were like, oh, well, that's Alex Jones. They can ban him, no problem. It's not going to be out of control, anything like that. And as we've seen, he was the first one to go. And since then, Twitter has just gotten more and more and more extreme with the political censorship. So I think I could see this happening with the banking realm as well. And, the boldness, like I said, of PayPal to release this policy, then they want to take it back after there's backlash. I don't like that at all. I think that's a cop-out. I think you could be, just reacting to the negative press that you got about it and pulling something back that you really wanted to put out there. So, we have to follow the story. Let's, keep your eye on this story. We'll see what happens with Kanye West. And let's get a couple more reactions here. I want to see what people are thinking about this. Time to close JP Morgan bank accounts. There you go. That's what I'm saying. Candace Owens. Okay, she tweeted about this. What does Candace have to say? Earlier today, I learned that Kanye West was officially kicked out of JP Morgan Chase Bank. I was told there was no official reason given. I have blacked out the names, blah, blah, blah. As I gather my thoughts about this, I want to say that I do not care what you think about Ye. I very much care what you think about this. Let's see. They said, I have a small business account with JP Morgan, and I'm closing my account with them. Please do the same. Stop doing business with woke companies. So, Candace didn't really make a standpoint yet. I think she's probably going to wait and see how this goes before she makes a statement. And I think that's a smart thing to do. That's what I said about, it's kind of what I was saying about, holding off for now on taking a stance on it. But a lot of people are wanting to close their accounts, and it's understandably so if that's really the case. So we'll wait and see how this story plays out. It's definitely an interesting one to keep your eye on. Big deal. Kanye West is not your average, everyday person in the sense that they can get away with doing this and nobody hearing about it. People are going to hear about it, and we'll see what happens. Definitely an interesting one. Next story for today is Alex Jones. So for those of you who do not know Alex Jones, I'm sure everybody does by now, but Alex Jones is a man who founded a company, InfoWars. People have labeled him as a conspiracy theorist. I think that's probably fair to say. I don't want to label him negatively like that. But he's been on Joe Rogan. He's been on Tim Pool. I believe he's been on Tim Pool's show. He's been on what's that comedian's name? I forget his name, but he's been on a few podcasts and shared his thoughts. And some interesting things have happened because Alex Jones oftentimes will make these statements where, he'll make a outlandish statement, what's considered to be outlandish at the time. And then a few years later, it'll come true. Like, I think he correctly predicted the Epstein situation back in 2012. Like, he was talking about Epstein and nobody else was. So it's just one of those things where, he has some things that are true, but then there's been a couple things like this. This story and what we're going to talk about is he came out one time and said that Sandy Hook was essentially a fake, like a false flag, that there was paid actors, like the children were actors, the parents were actors, etc. I think he said that the FBI agents involved in the case were actors, and it got him in some trouble. So that's what we're going to talk about. So Alex Jones is ordered to pay Sandy Hook victims' families nearly $1 billion, and this was from a defamation lawsuit. So let's go ahead and dive into this. A jury in Connecticut awarded damages to the families of 8 victims killed in the 2012 shooting and an FBI agent who responded to the scene. Jones had already been found liable for defamation after he spent years falsely describing the shooting. The families of 8 Sandy Hook shooting victims won nearly $1 billion in damages from the InfoWars fabulist Alex Jones, a devastating blow against his empire and a message from the jury that his lies and those of his followers have crippling consequences. A message from the jury that his lies and those of his followers have crippling consequences. So, political twist here from the New York Times, not surprising. Mr. Jones, who for years said the 2012 Sandy Hook shooting that killed 20 first graders and 6 educators in Newtown, Connecticut was a government hoax, now faces financial ruin, but it is unclear how much money the families will ultimately collect. Families and their lawyers sat in stunned silence as the court clerk read one by one the sums awarded to each of the 15 plaintiffs in this case. After court was adjourned, they hugged one another quietly weeping. The largest award was sent to Robbie Parker, who received $120 million. Okay. Just first reaction. I don't know if I'm off base here, but that seems a little bit excessive. Just a little bit. Okay? $120 million and I understand, like, this is extremely sensitive story. It's an extremely sensitive thing to talk about, right? We're talking about the death of innocent people, and that's so terrible. Like, I hate even saying that, but $120 million, and it makes me wonder, defamation, and it's, what is the literal definition of defamation? The action of damaging the good reputation of someone, slander or libel. So, yes, I get it, right? He definitely did damage it. It was a stupid statement to say that people were actors. It's just a dumb statement, and he came back and apologized for it, I believe. But $120 million. I'm just curious how they determined that he issued $120 million worth of damages. That's what I'm curious about. How do you determine that money amount? Because to me, that just seems excessive. I think they definitely should have received some sort of compensation or something. But $120 million for one person? I don't know about that. Let's keep reading. For years on his InfoWars show and website, Mr. Jones singled out Mr. Parker, whose daughter Emily died at Sandy Hook. Okay, so there's some more context. As an actor whose televised tribute to Emily a day after her death was disgusting. Ugh. See, you can't be saying that stuff, Alex. You can't be doing that. Mr. Parker, who has endured online abuse, harassment, and death threats since, formed the centerpiece of the Connecticut case. Every day in that courtroom, we got up on the stand and we told the truth, he said. Telling the truth shouldn't be so hard and it shouldn't be so scary. Mr. Parker added in a nod to Mr. Jones' followers, for anybody that still chooses to listen to that man, just ask yourself, what has he ever given you? And that's where I have to say something, right? I have to say right here that even though Alex Jones, it's kind of like saying like the whole Will Smith situation. I'm not downplaying this at all, but what I'm doing is I want to draw some sort of like metaphor here. So Will Smith smacked Chris Rock at the Grammys or the Emmys. I don't know what award show it was, right? And it was a clear lack of character and a moral failure on many levels. But it's almost like, do you judge Will Smith by that one comment or that one situation? Like, does that erase his entire, work of acting and all that? And it's the same thing with Mr. Jones here. I mean, if this is true, which I think it probably is true, if he called, a father grieving over his daughter getting killed in the shooting, if he said that was disgusting and said that, the tribute to her was disgusting, that is a whole other level of messed up. I want to say that absolutely. Like, that's just terrible, right? But, just ask yourself, what has he ever given you? Well, Alex Jones has actually provided, like I said, a lot of truth. And it's not me just saying this. I mean, it's Joe Rogan saying this. It's Tim Pool. It's guys that are really not biased. They're not really political guys. And it's just, if you look at his track record, he has said some true things. So it's just, I don't know. It's a tough situation. It's tough kind of to tell, how to treat the situation. But let's see. In all likelihood, Mr. Jones does not have the money to pay Wednesday's award of almost $1 billion. Not surprising, right? That's a lot of money. In August, a forensic economist estimated that Mr. Jones's empire was worth a maximum of $270 million. But that same month, Mr. Jones put his parent company, Free Speech Systems, into bankruptcy. Mr. Jones claimed that a debt of $54 million had made him insolvent. Okay, so right here, his entire worth. Let's see where this links to. Oh, I can't review that apparently. But his entire company's net worth is $270 million. So there's absolutely no way he's going to pay this defamation suit. There's just no way. So I'm curious what they're going to do about that. Let's see. Mr. Jones live streamed the jury's verdict on Wednesday on his InfoWars show. They covered up what really happened. Now I'm the devil. I'm actually proud to be under this level of attack. So, like I said, if I am correct about this, which I think I am, I'm pretty sure Alex Jones has come out repeatedly over the years, and I think I've seen this actually, so I'm confident to say he has. He's come out repeatedly and apologized, said he was wrong about it, said he had incorrect information, he was wrong, and he apologized sincerely. Can you take back all the damage that was done because of your platform? No, you said what you said, but he has come out and admitted that he was wrong and embarrassed about saying this. So it's just one of those things. I think there should be a little give and take here. I think we should definitely give these victims of this harassment, I would call it harassment, some sort of award. But should we take this man and charge him $1 billion for comments that were made that were extremely inappropriate and incorrect. But $1 billion, I mean, that just seems excessive to me. And I think we're setting a dangerous precedent here, just like the Kanye West situation. If you dare question the narrative, because, and I don't want to, this is on its own, right? This Sandy Hook thing happened. But what I'm saying is that what if you question a narrative that's actually untrue? Like, for example, the recent events in 2020. What if you question anything about that? Are we going to get charged for defamation? Because if somebody has control of the narrative, if somebody has control of the facts behind the situation, and you call it out, and they say, oh, we have the facts, this is true, even though it's not true. If they control those facts, if they have control of the evidence themselves, and you come out against it, then you could be charged. You see what I'm saying? So we have to look down the road. That's why this is even a story, because you have to think down the road, what could this lead to? That's how I'm always thinking, because that's how we prevent, government tyranny, is by acting on what we see and making sure we prevent situation from even happening in the first place. I just read a book about Alexander Hamilton, right? One of the greatest forefathers of America, constructors of American society, of American finance, etc. Hamilton, had this belief that, good statesmen make policy and they prepare for things that are not even here yet. And that's something right here. Banks banning people for politics potentially, courts making, people pay an unbelievable, unimaginable amount of money, even for this man, Alex Jones, for saying certain words. Words are words, and that's why I say harassment. He had a platform. It is harassment. But at the end of the day, they are words. I mean, it's words. So it's just a dangerous precedent to set. You could look at, did his words lead to harm against them? Did it provoke anybody to harass them on top of that? Then you could look into some other sort of punishment. But, if it's just simply words that we are convicting here and indicting, that's a problem to me. So anyways, I'm not going to read the rest of this. We've talked about this story enough, but it's definitely an interesting story to look at. I would encourage you guys to check this out. Big story there from Alex Jones. The next story we are going to look into is, again, not sure if you guys have seen this, but it's pretty hilarious. So Joe Biden asked OPEC, the Saudi Arabian oil alliance, essentially, he asked them to delay these price hikes they said they're going to have for the U.S. So prior to this happening, so just to give some context, OPEC said about, I think a week ago, that in the fall and winter of 2022, that OPEC is going to raise U.S. market prices and simultaneously lower, I think, EU prices. So clearly that's an issue for Joe Biden, right, the president. So he's like, well, how can we avoid this making an impact on our elections? So as you'll see here, the Biden administration decided to go to OPEC and say, would you guys be willing to delay these price hikes for about a month? And why a month? Look, what is the date? It's right here, October 13th. Why are we delaying it 1 month? I'm pretty sure in that next month there's something kind of big going on, right? I think we all know what it might be. I think it's the elections. So you want to delay the price hikes by 1 month, but then after that it's okay? Nah. So and that's what Saudi Arabia saw. They saw him doing that, and here we go. This is Jack Posobiec. I'm not sure if I pronounced that correctly, but I always see him on Twitter. He's a pretty solid dude. Breaking news: the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia confirms Biden attempted to coerce them to postpone oil cuts until after the midterms. The Saudis announced they have rejected his quid pro quo. So I think the quid pro quo there was a little bit of a joke because of how they said that the former president had a quid pro quo. But let's see. I don't want to read this whole thing. It's kind of long, but let's go and see if we can skim and find. The government of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia affirms that any attempts to distort the facts about the kingdom's position regarding the crisis in Ukraine are unfortunate and will not change the kingdom's position, including its vote to support UN resolutions regarding the Russian-Ukrainian crisis. The kingdom's rejection of any infringement on the sovereignty of countries over their territories. The kingdom stresses that while it strives to preserve the strength of its relations with all friendly countries, it affirms a rejection of any dictates, actions, or efforts to distort its noble objectives to protect the global economy from oil volatility. So they're saying that the U.S. is attempting to distort the objective of OPEC to protect the global economy from oil volatility by asking them to halt the price hikes on the U.S. market, right? Whether or not you believe that, it's up to you. I think I can see the point. The kingdom affirms that it views its relationship with the United States as a strategic one that serves the common interests of both countries. So a rosy ending here. The Saudi-U.S. relationship has stood over the past 8 decades. So they're being as objective as they can be here. But I just think it's hilarious, right? Because like, why are you waiting 1 month? Why of all times is it 1 month long? You just want to delay the price hike. It's just hilarious to me. So yeah, I want to go ahead and read this article really quick. It's from the Washington Post. Let's see. Saudi Arabia responded Thursday to a barrage of criticism from the U.S. over decision to cut production. It denied it was politically motivated. Economic considerations were taken into consideration. Let's see. The unusually detailed and often caustic statement attributed to a Saudi foreign ministry official was issued after the White House and members of Congress condemned the kingdom for a decision by OPEC to cut its oil by 2 million barrels a day, a move that could boost oil prices in the U.S. and worldwide. The cuts were seen as a political blow to President Biden ahead of a tough winter and a month before midterm elections. So as you guys can probably tell, a rise in oil prices absolutely will not help the president during the midterms. I remember back when gas was about $5 a gallon. I think it was about April, May of 2022, when it hit an all-time high. That's when the president's approval rating was at an all-time low. I think it got all the way down to like 33% approval, and that was because of the gas prices. So there's not really many things that can drive approval down that bad, but gas is one of them. And the Saudi Arabians are not going to listen to this man. Clearly, they don't really care what he thinks. And to be quite honest, I've seen the Saudis meeting with our adversaries quite often. So, it might lead you to believe that they really could care less about the U.S. when it comes to oil. I mean, the U.S. is a large purchaser of oil, but they know that we need their oil because we shut down our own production of oil, with things like the Keystone Pipeline and other, green energy motives that Biden has put into place. They really have a lot of leverage. So his request doesn't really hold any water. So the White House has been pressing Saudi Arabia to produce more oil to compensate for the global shortage and price increases caused by Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Biden visited Saudi Arabia in July, met with the Crown Prince. So apparently this guy is a controversial guy. It says he was involved in the 2018 killing of a journalist. So Biden got a bunch of pushback for even visiting with him. But yeah, I mean, so as we see here, well, oil could be going up on the rise, something to be aware of, but it'll be interesting to see if that takes a toll on the midterm elections. The midterms are coming up really quickly, so yes, we shall see. The last story of the day that I want to cover is an unfortunate one. So the president, I mean, it's honestly kind of sad to see this happening, right? When you think about it, President Joe Biden is a man. He's a father, he's a grandfather, he's a brother, I'm sure, maybe a sibling of somebody. So I don't really ever like making fun of anybody, to be honest with you. And especially the president of the U.S. I think we all want a president who's capable, who's a leader, who's healthy. And that's really all I want for my country. I want the U.S. to do well. I want us to succeed. And it's just sad to see things like this, but it's not surprising. I mean, the president has had some very bad problems with his speech and other things. But yesterday he said, I say this as a father of a man who won the Bronze Star, the Conspicuous Service Medal, and lost his life in Iraq. Speaking of his son, Beau Biden, which died in 2015 from brain cancer in Maryland. So, Yeah, I mean, look right here. So misinformation. Joe Biden claims his late son, Beau, lost his life in Iraq. What do you say? Like, what? I really don't know what to say at this point. I feel like I see these videos every single day on Twitter at this point. So disappointing, man. Disappointing. I certainly hope he turns it around. I hope he makes it through his term. We shall see about that. I don't know if his health is going to make it through, but it'll be interesting to see. But yeah, those are the breaking stories for the day. So hope you guys took some value from the show today. I hope I enlightened one of you at least. If I did, if you enjoyed the show, if you took some value or information from it, make sure you drop a like on the YouTube channel. Like I said in my last video, I'm still getting started here, still getting going, getting some traction. So every single like and subscribe counts, as it always will. It'll always count. So I sincerely appreciate anybody for tuning in today. Make sure you subscribe for more content. And with that being said, this has been Common Sense with Joseph Staten. I will see you next time. Peace out.